Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and you are on Global TV Talk Show, a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. It's amazing that Google Analytics, I don't know how they do it, but they say that we have had, since we launched this Global TV in the spring of 2020, 142,000 audience page views. It's crazy, amazing. And so I hope all of them will watch this show. But here today, we have an array of people representing the business interests concerning Latin America and its growing, burgeoning role in the world economy. Really thankful to be a part of this, and thank you all for being on this program. The idea is to exchange ideas and to make new friends, because there are people on this program on the screen right now who I have met in person over the last 20 years and have remained friends. And boy, it's like a miracle, and I'm grateful. So you never know what can develop from this one broadcast. So remember, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And so you share ideas and you develop rapport through the chat down below, exchange emails and website information. You can always ask for business later. The idea is to get to know each other. First off, I want to introduce Julianna Ruiz, who's in Sao Paulo, as you could tell from that great bridge. Welcome, say hi, and quickly introduce yourself and what you do.
Hello, Ed, and everyone. Thanks again for having me here. Well, for those who don't know me, my name is Julianna Ruiz. I am an immigration lawyer based in São Paulo and in Brazil. And a year ago, I launched my own project into the global mobility industry named iGo Immigration Services. I've been working in the industry for over 11 years now. So we deal with taxation and immigration in Brazil, and in case you need anything here, it will be a pleasure to support you. But thanks again, Ed.
Thank you. This is, I think, your fourth program, and I wish you well. Patty, Patricia Tavares? Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are. That's perfect.
Okay, great. So you are the leader of LATAM Talks, which is a talk show, and also you are the Latin America regional leader for K2 relocation. Is that right?
That's right. Exactly it. I don't even need to say anything else. You've said it all.
And your background includes senior level in Unilever. Is that correct?
Yes. So my background is 20 plus years as a corporate within HSBC and then Unilever, starting as a consultant and ending up as the regional head LATAM for HSBC and for Unilever, until I decided to take this step over. And now I am the LATAM director for K2 Corporate Mobility that just opened their office in Sao Paulo on April this year in the middle of the pandemic. So bigger challenge than normal. And we're really happy to be an RMC working not only in Brazil, but in LATAM also. And I am the co-founder for Brazil Talks and LATAM Talks, which are two talk shows, like Ed said. We have the focus of education. So we like to share knowledge with our global mobility consultants and community so that they can also learn about other countries. And we're also here to talk about hot topics in the region. So anybody has any ideas of hot topics, just reach out to me. And if you want to do business with K2, also reach out to me.
Now,
and
K2
last
is
but not least,
yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for having me again on the show.
Oh, sure.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm really honored to have all of you there. So listen, tell me about K2, and I'll listen. It's from England, right? From the UK?
K2 is an English company, yes. It's an English company. It's 18 years in the market. And first acting only UK and then Europe and then spreading out. Today we are in all the continents. We have 11 offices, regional offices out to be able to support every country that we're in, that we work with. Currently, we're working with over 120 countries. So we are not physically in the 120 countries, but yes, we do have partners. We're very strict on who we choose to be our partners. We have a program that does all the vetting and everything that's necessary to make sure that we keep the quality with which K2 began back 18 years ago when they did only VIP cases. Now we have a VIP program, but we also do other cases, normal cases. And we're not after volume. So if you have one move, reach out. We'll do it also with the same quality that we do 100.
We are very commercial on this program, so it's okay to talk about business. Okay. So I see that QR code in the screen there. So if
that links directly into the Brazil Talks website. If you put it down, you'll see, and it'll take you into the Brazil Talks website, and then you have a page for LATAM within the site.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So far, our site is bilingual, Portuguese and Spanish, but for next year, we're going to put it in English also, so that everybody can use it.
Oh, cool. So let's move along. We've got so many voices here. Boy, it's great. It's just exciting for me to do this, to tell you the truth. So it's better than getting on a plane and going to a city to produce one of our live conferences, although I did that for 25 years and it crashed and burned because of the pandemic. Last February 27, no, two February 27th ago was our last live meeting that I produced. It was in Washington, D.C. on Embassy Row. And we had some people from embassies, but also governments and NGOs. And they got on a plane and flew back cross country here to San Diego. And other than the crew, I think I was the only one on that plane. I knew, God, something bad's going to happen. So here we are doing TV talk shows. So let's make the best of this. Welcome, Maru. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Please introduce yourself. This is the first time we're ever meeting.
Yes, you did pronounce it well. Actually, it's the right way, Maru. I'm Maru Fuentes. I am Managing Director of Master Relocation. We are a destination service provider in Mexico. And we belong to the Trafimar Group, which is a household goods moving company initially. And now we're trying to expand a little bit into the rest of the mobility services that can be provided. And I've been in the industry, to be honest, just only 5 years so far. But it's just something that I'm very passionate about. So thank you so much for having me. It is indeed my first time. So let's see how it goes. I'm pleased to meet you all.
Yeah. So how's Patricia? She and I have met. In fact, she was a speaker at a couple of my meetings, one in Mexico City that we produced at Ernst & Young, I believe. In their fancy offices. I can't remember exactly. In Palenque. Okay.
Yes.
And then she also spoke at our meeting in Rio that we produced also with Ernst & Young. This is going back a long time ago. But okay, so please say hi for us. Okay.
Absolutely will do. Thank you.
All right. Now let's go quickly to Rigoberto. Thank you again for being a friend and supporter. And this is, I think, your third show with us, right?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is Rigo from Mexico. I work for Newland Chase, an immigration firm company based in Mexico. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite again, Ed. So glad to see the audience is growing.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being a fan. Carlos, hello. Hola.
Hey, Edwin. Good morning, everybody. This is Carlos. I work for ICU Net of Americas. I'm the regional BDM for the US and Mexico, and I'm glad to be here. This is my second show, and it has been a pleasure. Thanks for the invite once again.
Yeah, you bet. So are you based in Atlanta or in Mexico City?
In Mexico City.
Yeah,
in Mexico City, yes.
Now I know ICU is in Munich area or Passau in Germany, right?
Passau, that is correct. That's our headquarters and kind of, yeah, where we started. We started as an intercultural firm, and we have moved forward to a mobility firm as well. So we do all destination and origin services for.
Yeah, I've recently had the pleasure to connect on LinkedIn with Mr. Witter.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, and he's in the home office, I guess, but we haven't met yet. Okay, and now let's go quickly to Eve Espindola. Hello.
Hello, let me see if I fixed my camera.
There you are.
There we go. Hi,
there.
Ed. Hi,
Hi
everybody.
there.
Yes, my name is Eve. I am the global mobility partner for a gaming company here in California called Scopely. We are pretty much everywhere in the world. Our largest, I think, or most volume office is in Spain, and we're hiring a lot of South Americans to send there. So I'm very interested to hear the conversation today. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So, what's the name of the company?
Scopely.
And what do they do?
Mobile gaming.
What does that mean? It's not gambling.
Video games.
Oh, video
to
games.
play on your phone. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm just old. Okay. So, how many people work for this company?
With the latest acquisition of the GSN studios from Sony, we are over 2,000, I would say, all over the world, though, not just US. In the US, I would say about 800.
Cool. And what kind of people, in other words, what backgrounds, what kind of work would the transferees do? I can't hear you.
Ooh, let's try this again.
Okay.
Yeah, so we hire a lot of game designers, engineers, and artists to actually create the games. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So these people, I mean, wouldn't they work remotely?
Right now, we are still remote, fully remote until beginning of 2022. We are working on a hybrid return to work model, but we are still requiring, of course, the new hires to relocate to one of our hub locations, right? So that, or where Scopely has entities to be able to hire them. Yeah, but we are still fully remote.
Yeah, well, this is very cool. So, I assume you have a seat at the table, as they say, and you work integrated with talent management.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, and so the stakeholders in your organization are probably many, not just the C-suite, but the people who support, the line managers, right? Comp and Ben.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people involved. Yes.
So I don't want any secrets, but if you, I would like to know how you think about this gig economy that is, is not new, but it seems like it's here to stay, though, doesn't it?
Right, and it seems like the gaming industry kind of adopted that wholeheartedly, because a lot of the times they hire talent to work on one specific game. And once that's done, then, the contract is over. So there's quite a few that operate under that model. But we very much prefer people to stay with us for longer than 2 years.
Got it. Yeah. Mark Nadich and I have known each other several years, about 8 or 10 years. He's moved on from corporate America at a very senior level. Mark, please self-intro yourself better than I just did.
No problem. Hello, everyone. I have a great passion for my friends and connections to Latin America, having spent 15 years being involved in Latin America with companies like Abbott, SC Johnson, and the spinoff of Abbott, AbbVie, where I retired about 4 years ago. And now I do some consulting and have a wonderful portfolio career in many different areas, including philanthropic work. That's kind of my area of focus, but had the good fortune of meeting amazing people. And what Ed said is about connections to people. It's so great to do that with my new friends from Latin America.
So you actually had responsibility over people and processes in Latin America?
I did. Yep. Specifically for 5+ years at SC Johnson, and then another about 10 years as I went back to Abbott in 2010.
Patty, are you familiar with SC Johnson these days? Yeah, okay. So we want everybody to talk with each other.
Sorry, I was
yeah.
on mute here. No,
Yep.
I'm really not that familiar. Don't know very much, but I'm
Okay,
anxious
cool.
to learn.
Yeah, all right. Okay, let's move right along here from Santiago. Felipe, again, welcome.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi everybody. Thanks, Edwin, to be here again. My pleasure to be here. And as a lot of the attendants, I had a corporate experience around 5 years in a multinational relocations company. I was Rigoberto Vasquez's colleague at Crown Worldwide Group. I was the business development manager. I'm very connected with all Latin American region.
Yeah, cool. So what's the economy all about today? And what's it look like for 22 in your area?
Yes, let me put my contact data on the chat. Everybody can see that.
Yeah, thank you. I see it.
Great. Please come again with your question.
Yeah, okay. Very quickly, is the economy good in Chile?
Oh, such as spoken on our last session, we are still in the uncertain times because the elections will going to be this weekend, and we have a struggle very tight between the two candidates, one from one end and another one from the other extreme, and the people is not yet decide. And you have to sound the current economic inflationary scenario, because as I said in the last session, the state aid for the family through bonds for the emergency income for families has put running a lot of money in the economy. That is making a pressure for the inflationary scenario. So the consecutive releases or withdrawals of the pension funds for people are putting more money in the market, and the political contingency, as I started commenting regarding the election times and in certain scenario, at least till the next week, is another pressure for the inflation. At the last, by the factors are the exogenous variables that impact Chile due to the high demand for products before a low supply in the global market. That is the things are going this week in Chile.
So you said that there's two extreme candidates. So either way, there's going to be some changes.
Oh, hard right and hard left. That's two opposite poles struggling for the government,
yeah,
for the next government.
Okay, so what about the pandemic? How's that impacting day-to-day, everyday life for you?
For me, it's presential work with as my job as a strategic and corporate strategy consultant. I have to be present with the board of directors and meetings with the chairman. That is very classic to be presential. So the remote work has been in a mixed phase. Difference of the 2020 last year, that was within a lockdown, everybody was working remotely at home. We have a more presential job nowadays. So the uncertain scenario by the economy, by politician decisions, by inflation, by the same pandemic, and the new arrival of Omicron variant of the virus, It's very buga, as I commented you before, uncertain, convulsive, and ambiguity. I cannot say, but I can resume like we are trying to going on in this uncertain scenario, at least in Chile, and I guess it's the same symptom in this part of South America.
Interesting.
Yeah, I see Chile, if I can interrupt a little bit, Ed.
Sure.
I do see Chile growing, Felipe, because we have been doing lots of moves into Chile. So we have companies, we haven't done more actually because of immigration, right? So the work permits are taking longer to come out. The situation is not that easy to get the immigration compliance part. But as soon as we get them, we've been moving. I have, I think, 4 or 5 different clients that are starting to move lots of people into Chile. So looks good, looking good for you.
Where are the
Yes.
people being moved from, Patty? Where are they departing from?
I have 2 Brazilian companies that are becoming international now. So 2 companies are sending from Brazil to Santiago, basically São Paulo, Santiago. I have another company that's sending people from Costa Rica over. And I do have one that's sending from Argentina, believe it or not. Yes, Argentina, Chile, it is happening also. And I think that's it. Yeah. So,
Okay, good.
Great
Thank
to know
you.
that, Patricia. Great to know. Very good news, because from my end, I have seen the closing of local companies because of the restraining of the economy. In the contrary case, the Chilean economy has grown a lot because of the government aid for family, where the consumption has been increased, so the employment is lower. That from the economic theory, there's a formula called the Phillips curve that says that while the inflation is growing up, the unemployment is going down. In that theory is making reality in Chile. So we have a standby mood in these days by decision makers from corporations, because they are aware of the result of next elections, and maybe or next week I can see what's going to happen depending the kind of government that we're going to have in Chile.
Yeah. Mark Nadich, when you were involved in Latin America, did you ever encounter a security, in other words, a threat to you or to your people?
Yes and yes. I think, well, I can't get into lots of details, right? But yes, I think you have to, and not just in Latin America. I mean, it's across kind of the enterprise, if you will. It can happen in the United States just as well today. But I do think that, you know, I worked in very large multinational companies. We were in some cases, 170 countries we operated in. And so we had a very strong protocol on how things were handled. And I always felt incredibly safe, but there was certainly precautions depending on the country you went to that you had to be very sensitive to.
Want to introduce my good friend Ed Rivas, who's in the Dallas area, and he is a security expert. Ed.
Thank you, Ed. Good to see you. We saw each other in San Diego a couple of weeks ago, so it was great to meet in person again and share a cup of coffee. Yes, I am Edward Rivas. I am a assistant vice president at AXA Insurance Company. I'm an underwriter for their security risks division. And we have programs that are global, not just Latin America, but particularly me, I'm focused on Latin America for programs to protect both the employees of corporations and private families against any kind of security issues that may occur and so forth.
So I wanted to ask you if you could, and I want everybody to introduce themselves to Ed Rivas on the chat, and feel free to jump in. Ed has allowed me to produce with him several live programs in different places. about security threats and what are they. And Ed, I'm not going to take your time. You do it better than me. Okay, so you gave me a list the other day, very well written, which I'll publish at another time publicly. But why don't you take us down that list of 3 or 4 or 5 items that you mentioned about the kind of threat, just identify the threats and the role, interestingly, I read, about China.
Yes. Okay. So I'll start first, kind of on a more macro level basis, for Latin America, and I might miss my topics may or may not touch on a particular country in Latin America because all of them are distinctly different. Correct. But I think the first thing we see is obviously what you see on the news about the migrant crisis. About the caravans from Central America going up through Mexico to the United States, is not the first time. I mean, that there's been immigrants coming to the U.S. We are a land of immigrants, from the first Europeans that came over, and then even, tens of thousands of years ago, the first, Asians that crossed over through Alaska, correct? So, but from a security standpoint, we see it from 2 perspectives. And the second one is going to be I think, very relevant to the group that we're talking to today. The first one, I think, as we all know, that the way things are going politically in the U.S., even now with the change of administration, quite a number of the people seeking to enter the U.S. are going to be staying in northern Mexico for their foreseeable future, which is basically a word for indefinitely. So obviously, there's an issue that most of these people are just simply innocent, hardworking people looking to provide for their families. But chances are, we've seen it, there'll probably be a small spike in crime, petty crime, stealing from here and there to go ahead and be able to buy food and so forth. I think, to me, the real tragedy of the current political climate in the United States is really the depletion of the brain power in Latin America. America United States being a land of immigrants, there's always going to be immigrants coming in. My father was an immigrant. One of my cousins in San Francisco was an immigrant. I've got other family members and several friends that are immigrants that it was great for them to come to the U.S. But I think if you look at the group here in Global Mobility, I think that if we can assist Latin America to better develop as we have over the decades, then a lot of people, they don't necessarily want to immigrate. They like to stay in their country and so forth. I mean, it's only one, it sounds like a lot. It's not a lot. $1.2 billion that Kamala Harris announced, I think, earlier this week, from private investment into Central America. But I think what I see on the call here is that if Latin America can improve its macroeconomic and microeconomics, then people will be crisscrossing between Latin America countries in mobility and between the US and Europe and Asia without having to make those moves, kind of thing. So to me, from a security standpoint, being able to keep the best that Latin America has in Latin America will go ahead and stabilize not just the economies, but the social fabric, and go ahead and ensure that there's less crime, more stability across for everybody.
So what's the role of China in this? I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, so China, it's very interesting. So, historically, we're used to Russia being kind of the anti-balance of the U.S. back from Cuba in the 60s, Nicaragua in 79, and now we see the work with Venezuela and so forth. Traditionally, China has always been involved in Latin America for decades, but it was always from a purely economical standpoint. Their aim was always to use Latin America as a market to sell into, and then secondarily to go ahead and manufacture products that would be sent into the U.S. and Canada and Europe, kind of thing. In other words, kind of use it as an economic vehicle for growth and pursuit. But as we see that China is switching to try and become a global, they are a global political power. That's, I think, where you see the change in the last 10 to 15 years with China, where now they are switching from just purely economics to politics. And you can most see that. And I think this is one that we should all be paying very close attention to for our own countries. And this is basically is that what China is, their first shot across the bow is that they are incentivizing countries to remove their recognition of Taiwan as an independent state. We've seen this mostly with Central America, but there are inklings all over South America and Mexico and the Caribbean, that what they're doing is that as the United States has moved from its America first now to its Build Back Better, where we're trying to keep jobs here in the US, that kind of mentality. What's happening is that China is swooping in to go ahead and fill that gap. And they're basically saying, Ed, you're the president of, say, Honduras, and, the US is either stalling or lowering their economic aid. We can not only fill that gap, we can raise the bar on the economic aid. However, we have certain, conditions, one of them being a free trade zone, preferential immigration treatment for Chinese coming to work into Honduras, but also to go ahead and have these countries not recognize Taiwan anymore. And so I think what that's doing is that that's creating a political shift in Latin America, kind of similar to 30, 40 years ago, where, before Latin America was, and this is a bad way to say it, but it was always working with its biggest neighbor, the United States. Well, 30, 40 years ago, Russia entered the fray, really the Soviet Union. And so now what you're seeing is that, and I think the Biden administration, their announcement of the 1.2 billion in Latin America is now counterweighting what China is doing, because now literally it's becoming, Taiwan now is almost becoming the center point of Central America and all of Latin America.
Good, thank you. Now, the security blanket for Mexicans, the Mexican people, there's nothing new, right? Wealthy people or business owners, senior business managers in Mexico have always been dealing with local petty crime. But now with gangs, is that impacting global business?
It is. I think, and Mark, I understand your that you cannot speak on the details. But our clients, on the first part of our clients, the European, the American, Canadian, the Japanese, South Korean companies going into Latin America, they put quite a bit of resources towards security. And one of the big reasons is because, as we've seen, because they are considered, I said, like, rich organizations, large global organizations, then their employees are targeted. And usually what they end up targeting at is sometimes the expats, but a lot of times what they end up targeting are the local management, the ones that are maybe, when I worked for a global insurance company in Mexico City, our country manager was from Mexico City. He actually had been my boss before he was the country manager. And more than half of our C-suite was local, from the controller to human resources to operations. So those were the people that we most had to protect, because since they not only lived and worked basically in their country forever, a lot of times it also bled over into their family, because their families themselves had a certain prominence and wealth attached to them, independent, but also in conjunction with their global positions in these companies. So our charge was always to go ahead and make sure that they were cognizant not only of the risk for them as employees of the company, but also for their family members, where they lived, where their children went to school. I think most of us on the call understand the risk that is inherent. It's in varying degrees in Latin America of insecurity, as we'll call it, in the overall scheme of things. But I do think it's important to kind of note right now that, the pandemic hasn't helped in a lot of ways. I think what COVID-19 did was that it threw a lot of people that were in the microeconomy into the criminal economy, because it really had no other way to survive. I know different countries are having varying degrees of how they're recovering from the pandemic, but a lot of the damage has been done, Ed, and it's going to take a while to unwind for it. I think probably the best example of how corporations and society are dealing with both the pandemic and the rise in crime is the avocado industry in Western and Northwestern Mexico. Literally, I'm sure it's no surprise, not new information to anybody on the call, but they're actually forming into what in the US we would call self-defense militias, where sorry, the farmers themselves, the communities themselves are arming themselves against the criminal organizations that are trying to extort them of their profits. Very early on, and this has been going on for a number of years, but as we see with the pandemic hitting government coffers, the governments aren't able to protect. They don't have enough police or even military to go out to every corner of every country to go protect. So now you've got a situation where people are taking security into their own hands. We've dealt with these issues before. They can be pretty difficult, especially with the larger criminal organizations. But there is a way to protect both the corporations and to protect the employees and their families, Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Can I just say something here?
Of
Ed?
course. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It seems like I'm always barging in, but I just wanted to compliment.
It's a talk show, so let's talk.
Okay, let's talk then. I just wanted to, I don't know if compliment or complete a little bit what Edward, not Edward, was saying, right? So I think we have two different situations. One is the situation in the country. We're going through the same thing that Mexico is going here in Brazil. If you go to Rio, the situation in Rio is awful today. I would say, I hate having to say this and to admit it, being a Brazilian, it's not nice, but we have to admit it, right? So I would say 80% of the city of Rio is in control of the drug dealers, heavy drugs, heavy guns and weapons and everything that they have, much more than the normal police would have to be able to even to face them in something very, very complicated, right? Luckily or unluckily, I don't know what the word is, but so far it's happening only in Rio. It's not spreading out in the rest of Brazil. So I think the rest of Brazil is more under control. Let's put it that way. Today, if you talk about safety in Sao Paulo and safety in Rio, you can't even compare it because Sao Paulo is a lot safer, right? There are obviously, if you go to where you have the favelas, the slums, obviously you're not going to be in a safe place, right? But if you know, and that's the second part of thing that I wanted to say, if you know where to go, what time to go, how to walk out on the streets, for example, you're not going to walk out on the streets with a Rolex on your arm. Simple as that, right? Oh, I'm a C-suite. I'm the CEO of company XYZ. Doesn't matter. If you go out on the streets with a Rolex, you're going to get robbed. As easy as that. Right? So you have to know what to do and how to behave. And I think that's part, just bringing it a tiny little bit back to global mobility. I think it's part of global mobility's responsibility with the intercultural trainings to let people know how they have to behave and where they have to behave. Where are they going to go? What time are they going to go? Do they need an armored car? Right? If you get a CEO, for example, of a multinational that has factories or plants out in the middle of nowhere, he needs to go in an armored car with a driver because he doesn't know where he's putting himself in, right? But if he's going from one admin office to another admin office, he might not need it, right? So I think this behavior is something that is up to us here in Latin America as residents and knowing of the culture to share with them so that when they come, they know what they're going to face. It's not a surprise. They're not scared. They know how to react or not to react, which is the most important thing, right? And that kind of thing. I think that's information that's important. And I also want to say that we did have several situations, Mark, same as you, where obviously we're not going to share, right? And we didn't have it only in Latin America. We had cases in Africa. We had cases in Europe. Yes, we had a very dangerous case in Europe where everybody says, no, nothing happens in Europe. It's really safe. It's not. It's the objective that they have of a sea level. So that ends up happening sometimes.
Yeah, Carlos.
Okay, I'll keep quiet now. I promise.
Thank you, Ed. And yeah, that was, I just wanted to compliment by saying that just what Edward and Patricia just described, we actually saw that opportunity within our clients. So we included 2 years ago a program that it's a 2 days program that allows experts just to know how to handle these things. And we included how to use public transportation, how to deal with the police, what to do if somebody calls and tries to extortion me or something like that. And it has been really good from for some of our clients, and especially for those expats that doesn't actually speak the local language. So has been really good. I just wanted to compliment with that. And we saw that coming.
Well, good. Thank you for speaking up. I want to invite our guest, Israel Ramos, to join us if you want.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. And welcome to the show. We've never met before. Please intro yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Israel Ramos. I was invited by Ed Rivas. And so I am an HR generalist and recruiter for a actuarial company called Milliman. We are a global firm, but pretty much we're all pretty much national as well. So thank you guys for having me.
You bet. So what do you think of the show so far? Is it useful?
It's very interesting. Yeah, like very useful as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. And where are you based?
I am based in Dallas.
I see. And you do recruitment worldwide or just into Texas?
Just nationally within the U.S. So.
Okay, good. And so do you have a crime problem in Dallas? I mean, we do in San Diego here, so I'm guessing.
It's funny. We actually just got a new police chief, about a year or so ago, right, Eddie? Around there.
Yeah.
And so I just read an article yesterday from the Dallas Morning News that crime has actually lowered since he took place. So it just, they're always recruiting for police officers as well. And so I think it's a good move so far.
So here in San Diego, there's a homeless situation downtown where I am. It's not everywhere in downtown, but it is in an area where international rich people have invested millions, and even with a B, to invest into city blocks in the old part of East Village, as they call it. And the place is actually in an economic boom here in downtown, where almost every block in the older part of the city, East Village, is being renovated, and apartments, condos going up like bananas growing on trees. And so like 3 to 5 years from now, this will be unrecognizable here. So amongst all that, there's encampments. We just had a tremendous rainstorm here. Thank God it rained. It hasn't rained here for months. So, but now there's going to be disease amongst that population. So it's becoming not just a nuisance, it's a health problem, for not just for them, but for the city. So in LA, it's much worse and more pervasive. So Ed Rivas, what do you think about the homeless situation relevant to the safety and security of everybody else?
Yeah, and I mean, I think, we can all agree. I mean, we're in an open forum here, right? I mean, the economic United States are fairly stable. I know we've had recessions. The 09 one was pretty tough and so forth. But by the same token, I think, with Israel's comment, there has been a rise in homelessness here in the Dallas area. We know in other cities like Houston, even New Orleans and so forth. I think, the renewed emphasis on mental health, and it's so interesting because this deviates a little bit from Latin America, because this really isn't as much a risk in Latin America, but what we would traditionally call here in the US, active shooter and workplace violence, especially in our school systems, is probably what is more sensitizing police departments and governments, especially local and state governments, to go ahead and put more money into what we would call, traditionally police officers have been hired by their physical and mental ability to enforce the law. I mean, the word intimidation is not the correct word, but, police officers with their uniform, with their badges, with their vehicles, they're supposed to be the word of the law, and people are supposed to respect that, right? And they do. But I think one of the things that has come out in all of this of at workplace violence and active shooters is that police departments could use a helping hand by having social workers and psychologists be on hand with them. In other words, if you just arrest a homeless person and put them in jail for a couple of days, well, what are they going to do when they get out? They're just going to go right back to being homeless. And you can maybe move them from LA to Denver, but then they'll go on to Houston, and then they'll go on to Chicago. There's really not an endless, the police are not there to end that cycle. That's really what social workers and psychologists are there for it. And I have a hope in that regard, because I think a lot of that is moving that way. And for the first time that I think we see, and I think the Dallas Police Department is an exemplar. In fact, our chief of police was just most recently the chief of police of San Bernardino. We pulled him away from you guys, so sorry about that, those from California. But they are recognizing that police officers, yes, they do need training in sociology and psychology, but more to the point, you need to put people on staff that are social workers and psychologists. Again, we're an open forum. There are some people that always will be, whether they want to or not, be homeless, but there's a lot of families, there's a lot of people that would prefer not to be homeless. And I think helping them find, some kind of hostel or halfway house, some kind of employment to just go ahead and keep them moving forward, if not necessarily up, I think that's the true solution there.
Thank you. Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Mark Nadich, what do you have to say about all this, being an expert in human relations?
Well, I think what Ed just said is really important, is that we have to work as a community together in our own communities and really start focusing on how do we work together rather than being, as we sometimes used to say in the corporate world, siloed organizations. We're never going to be totally successful unless we start to say, how do we look at this as an enterprise issue, an enterprise problem, whether that be for our city. I live in a city that is relatively small, 100,000 employees between, residents between Chicago and Milwaukee. And we have seen in our city a lot of tragedy and challenges the last couple of years. And I think one of the things that you pointed out, Edward, that we're trying to do is really focus on how do we come together as community to work together across all those enterprises. And I think that's really one of the most important things that we could do in the future in any one of our cities, whether that be 10 million people or 100,000 or 20,000.
Yeah, cool.
I would like to comment regarding that.
Oh, yes, of course. And then we'll go to Rigo.
Very brief, and me too. Rigo can make his opinion. So in Chile, we have a huge problem due to the irregular immigration, illegal immigration from Venezuela, because you know Venezuela has a hyperinflation and the economic situation is awful. In that case, the near geographic close up from Chile, Chile appears as the best economy in South America. And we have a lot, it's an extreme volume of Venezuelan people, Colombian people that is coming in Chile in an irregular form. It means they don't pass by the customs. They have some parts of the north of Chile that is a wide desert region, desertical region. They are coming in from the extreme zones of Chile in the limit of the frontier with Bolivia. And they come in working, taking buses. We have the problem of the mafias that they use the people to transport from one country to another. And that people is irregular in Chile. They arrive to Santiago, that is my city, that the biggest city in Chile, that the capital, and we have a lot of homeless people in the public places, in the streets, in the squares. And that's a problem, not only in Santiago, so in the northern city, more closer to the frontier. And the population cannot do some solutions that, as Mark Nadic is proposing, because the job is limited. In a pandemic scenario, the economic growth is limited, and we have an income of a lot of irregular people that is not recorded by the authorities, and that raises some delinquential activities that is non-conform. Just that's my opinion, but the reality that we are living in this part of South America. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the same issue here with all the refugees that are coming. It's very, very difficult. They come over because the health situation is better here than it is in their countries before pandemic, right? Let's put it that way. So
Patricia, the language is not a barrier for the another Latin American Spanish speakers to be in Brazil speaking
no,
Portuguese?
they come the way they are. They come without saying a word of Portuguese. And then what you see is a lot of homeless people. You see people trying to sell things in the stoplights and the corners. You have more a higher volume of lack of safety, right? Because they start breaking into houses. They start wanting to see what they want. And that's how it really starts off. So they come to Brazil with the expectation that Brazil is a lot better than they are. But the way they come in and how they come in doesn't give them what they're expecting, right? And the Brazilian government doesn't have a program for refugees. They're starting to put a program together now on how to do it. So I do a voluntary work, for example. I work with mentoring. I mentor women only. I don't mentor men. I only mentor women because I want to see women empowered. Look at this here. I'm the only woman here in the middle of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 men, right? So what do? I work with women. I empower young ladies to learn how to teach them how to be leaders, etc. And I'm doing a program where I'm mentoring young refugees, women also. because they are professionals. They come as doctors, they come as psychologists, the people that come to me are HR people, right? Because that's the area that I work in. So they come, but they all have a very good qualification, but they're refugees. Some of them don't even have documents, right? So that's how we start working with them slowly. It's a big program with the United Nations in Sao Paulo with a company called ACNUR. I don't know if you guys know it, but anyways, it's very interesting. It's a way that we try to diminish the amount of refugees that would be doing damage to the country, right? But the big volume is something that's out of control. So it's very hard to do something in community also. I guess it would be, Mark, the best solution, but for a country that might be a little bit more developed than what we are. And I say we, Brazil, or maybe even Latin America.
Mark?
So, Patricia, Felipe, just curious. I mean, I being my dad in Paz Descansa is Bolivian, and my mother Paz Descansa is Mexican. So we've also seen, Felipe, you mentioned, I'm sure Bolivia's passing through the immigrants to Chile where they can. Mexico, them come up. Have you seen the United States, either through the United Nations or directly, trying to help out Chile or Brazil to kind of, either with funds or helping nonprofits or the United Nations try and help you through the surge of Venezuelans?
No, nothing from the United States. And I would say that the United States is actually even a little bit rough on Brazilians because of the number of Brazilians that try to get illegally into the US. So it's not that the United States is bad. We have a whole bunch of Brazilians trying to get in there also, right? So the situation is not very comfortable, but we don't see any help from them. From the United Nations specifically also, nothing that I know of. I don't know, Felipe, if you have anything in the US, in Chile. But I do know that we have this program that I was mentioning with ACNUR, which is from the UNDP, the development program from United Nations. That's all that I'm aware of.
Let's go to...
not even in the Chilean government has been included, neither the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's part of the program from the candidates for the next election, because from one side, the left hard candidate want to help more immigrants to come in Chile, and the left hard and the right hard says, hey, we're going to start this like Donald Trump style.
Rico.
Interesting. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Ed. I wanted to.
No, this is super cool. I had no idea we were going to discuss all this. Rigo, what is going on in your company these days? Getting ready for a big new year?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the same in terms that. Yeah, I mean, the immigration topic, it's very important for us. And what I have seen recently, I think like 2 weeks ago, it was like precisely because these caravans, the immigrants that are coming from the south, the Mexican immigration authorities decide to take the personnel of the local offices and to go out and help those immigrants for, doing some paperwork. Some of them help them to come back to their countries, give them some special, let's say, treatment of refugees. And yeah, they have been, let's say, the government have been very busy with the caravans. But the opposite side, let's say, is that our clients, or corporate clients who pay us a lot of money for receiving an immigration and professional service, they are complaining about it, because at the end, what it happens is that the government take out personnel to help the immigrants, and then they don't receive the service on the immigration process they are having. So it's kind of very difficult situation, and I try to be neutral, but our client says something like, hey, we pay taxes to the government. We pay for a service that we are expecting to receive for getting a visa, because I come to Mexico for working purposes and to develop a lot of things. And the government, instead of helping us, because we are the labor force, they take the personnel and help the immigrants. So as I said, I just want to put myself very neutral on this topic, but at the end, it's all about that this international community is growing. And we are not growing only on the corporate side. We are also growing in the informal economy. And yeah, America is moving in many ways. So let's see that what the next year is it's about to bring us, and certainly keep positive, and hopefully the economy will start to recover in many aspects. But that's like my 5 cents.
Rigo, let me ask you a hypothetical question, and you can redirect it if you don't want to answer it, and just say, hey, Ed, shh. So let's just say that a miracle happens in Washington, D.C., and Congress gets it together to open up the process of immigration of high-tech people from anywhere in the world that come to the U.S. And like, instead of a green card, they give an American Express card and go, come on in, let's go. But you got to work and you got to pay taxes. And you have to do some community service work or something, some kind of conditions. So what would that do to your business?
That will represent for sure a lot of money, I guess. However, I think at the end it's not like that easy, because I think many people there is a very important factor, and this is the part where I can redirect my opinion to Jose Carlos Espinosa, where people, I think, is not fully aware about what the cultural piece means, which is learning a language in a foreign country like the US is not easy. Learning the cultural part is not easy as well, and certainly they will rely on the local people who is already there. But at the end, there is a competitive environment, and we are all eager to develop our professional career. So yeah, that will be a miracle. But at the end, there will be a lot of setbacks probably, as there are a lot of things to consider on the intercultural part.
Interesting. Carlos?
Yeah, I can say that is correct. We have seen just great advances in the companies that we have delivered some trainings in which they can create this awareness between one culture and another, because it's about a little bit of everything. So we do have some programs that can be super basic, but at the same time, we just push as much as we can so they can really understand what actually motivates or drives some things within a culture. So yeah, in terms of that, I would say intercultural programs have been and will be a big thing in the next couple of years.
Right. Israel, what do you think of that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get you more involved, so I wanted to know, what do you think of that topic? About opening up borders, what would that do to your job?
I mean, I feel like it would definitely help out, as we've been hearing, on the news on shortages of labor and things like that. I think, finding talent from, different parts of the country would be beneficial. And not only that, you'll also get to hear, different perspectives and, finding different talent from different places. So.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you for that contribution.
Yeah.
Mark Nadich, back to you, being the expert here on human relations and in a corporate setting. What do you think is going to happen with this back to work thing? Back to the office. It seems like companies have given up.
Ed?
Oh, yes.
I'm really sorry, but I'm being called for another meeting. I just
Thank
wanted
you
to,
for coming.
I didn't want to just drop off. I just wanted to wish everybody happy holidays, and we'll see each
Merry
other next
Christmas.
year. Merry
You too.
Christmas, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye. I'm
Patty.
sorry I have to drop off.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Mark.
And I think a couple important things that companies are trying to work through here is what kind of work needs to happen in teams in a physical environment where people can be connected, and then what kind of work needs to happen or is best suited for, like we're doing in Zoom meetings, and you don't have to be in the office. And I think a lot of companies are trying to figure that piece out, right? And I think the companies that, from what I've seen and working with different organizations, is if they can kind of answer one of that fundamental question, like, do I go to work 2 days a week and then the rest of it, and I'm hoteling, but I'm having the opportunity to work in teams. There's no greater opportunity for people to coach people to build, innovation. You have to do those kind of things, I think, more in a face-to-face environment versus not. And so I think some companies are actually, a number of companies are going back to work. Some of them are doing a week and then a week off, week on, because they kind of believe that this connection point, depending on the kind of work that it is really important. And I think it is too. That's just my perspective.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Philippe, back to you about what do you think, once again, if you could sum up what's it look like for Chile economically in the new year? Fast start?
Yes, because we are in election times. I insist on that. There are a lot of expectations for the next government, independent who's be the choose one. In the case, the priorities are the promotion of the economic growth by the government, aiming to give stability to all the markets, local and international. And that going to be reached by the boosting of the private sector, aiming to promote and give a lot of focus to employability, because people are receiving the bonds from emergency funds by the government. So that's going to end on December. And as from January 2022, people have to go out to find a job. And that's the main challenge for the government. And in my opinion, I would like to share the fundamental pillars for economic growth in Latin America in general, because we are mono-exporting economies for mainly of raw materials. So the investment where local and foreign companies should invest in these countries, because that gonna develop the productivity and employment. The export of the Latin American companies for the big economies in America gonna open up to the world and generate market activation in each country. The domestic consumption, when acquiring goods and services through a job with a paid salary, gonna activate the economy. And in the case of Chile, and that's one of the discussions in this elections times, is the size of the state. Because if you reduce the state, should develop the needs and must buy goods from foreign countries and service for the own suppliers. And that's the discussion. So one side of the candidate want to expand the state and create more jobs for the state. And another part say, no, I'm gonna reduce the states, I'm gonna fire up the state functionaries and create jobs by the invisible hand of the market.
Let me interject that. I agree with Felipe. I think first on Chile, Chile has always been recognized as one of the stronger and more stable economies in Latin America. I remember this goes back to the mid-1990s. I was doing my MBA at NYU. One of our professors for international business, I think he had been the minister of economy in Chile. I forgot his name, Felipe. I'll try to remember, and I'll let you know. But
later we want to be in contact. More deeply talk about that.
Por supuesto, and I think it was recognized that Chile over the decades has done a lot to. Yes, the copper and other rare minerals and tourism continue to be the foundation, just like Mexico has oil, Brazil has oil and the farming. But by the same token, Chile has tried to move along into the global economy, right? And not just be about copper and skiing, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. And in a more macro level, and I think to kind of, again, to mirror what you just said, Felipe, is I think Latin America continues to be a powerhouse. Yes, we have to deal with, issues with education, issues with security, but I still remember in 2009, in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, at the very height of the drug wars, that year was the year of the highest investment by American companies into factories into Ciudad Juarez, into Mexico, where supposedly it was so dangerous, no one could go. So I think while we are all cognizant of the issues that we have as Latin America, I think you as global mobility specialists continue to be on the forefront, not just bringing American companies and American personnel into Latin America, but I saw as many people moving Latin Americans within the countries and also to work in the United States. A lot of my bosses, my boss, who went from being a division president to head of my insurance company in Mexico City, he became then they moved him as an expatriate to New York City to be the head of Latin America for one of our divisions. So I think, Felipe, you hit the nail on the head. It's really up to us, little by little, one by one, to make sure that we're taken into account as professionals, as countries, and that we're given that voice on the table to be part of the global economy.
Thank you. Agree.
Yeah. Mark Nadich, what's it look like for executive search? It must be a hot market for you.
It's as crazy as it can be in a good way. I mean, I think that the firm that I do some work with will have our best year ever. And I don't think it's going to let up. I think that there's, more movement ahead. I think people are in this environment over the last 18 months, kind of determining, what is it that they want to do? And the companies that are able to be very adaptable to, ways in which we work differently, and also that connect to the actual mission and purpose in a very strong way. I think people will be able to, there's going to be a lot of activity. So I think it's not going to change and slow down, I don't think, even though there's economic factors that are saying that. And I think that that's just not in the US. I think that that's kind of a global trend based on what I know.
Good. Thank you all for being on this program. Our next edition of Latin America will be on January 14, same time, and you'll all be notified. I hope you come back. And if you want to bring a guest or recommend someone to me to invite, surely just reach out. So thank you for being on Global TV. It's been a privilege for me to host you guys.
Muchas gracias, Edwin. This was awesome. We'll see you in January.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day and stay safe.